Here's what Z790 tells us about upcoming Intel CPUs.
Well, unofficially.
Hey Internet, Gordon Young with PC World. We're at Computex 2023, and I have next to me, of course, Wendell from Level 1 Techs. Wendell's been looking at Z790 boards on the floor. I've also taken a look at a few as well, and I know you're going like, whoa, Gordon, Z790's been out for months and months and months. There's nothing new here. But
there's a refresh coming, it seems like. There's new Z790 motherboards we haven't seen before with Wi-Fi 7, and also some changes under the hood, which suggests things are coming.
And you mean like the things that are coming, more USB, or actually things that are important, like CPU implications?
It seems like that we're getting even more power delivery for that plucky little LGA 1700 socket. And we would think that we would hear rumors of a new motherboard and a new socket if something fabulous was coming by the end of the year. So it seems like if we see anything at all by the end of the year, it's going to be a refresh for LGA 1700.
So, yeah, so we're seeing beefier motherboards based on the same Z790 chipset.
Yeah.
And the thing that's crazy to me is like, Z790 was not beefy when it launched.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it was already beefy. It wasn't weak. What the hell else could require beefier motherboards?
Well, we kind of could connect the dots a little bit if we look back at, Alder Lake and Raptor Lake. It's a 12th generation part, it's a 13th generation part. And would you say that it's fair to call some of the non-K overclocking Raptor, 13th gen parts, not really Raptor Lake, they're Alder Lake, but they're 13th gen. And so if we connect the dots a little bit there, it's like, well, okay, Intel could come out with something else that's another stepping, but they're not going to replace the full stack. They're going to keep selling basically Alder Lake and Raptor Lake Silicon. They might call it 14th gen, they might call it 13.5th gen, it might be the 13900 KSS, I don't know.
Yeah, and we're being very coy about this, but clearly, I would expect we're going to see, bin, very high clock, 13th gen Raptor Lake based CPUs. I just don't know why you would need more power for it though. Like, how much further can you go?
Well, we might have been misunderstanding, but in Intel's earlier communication, they strongly suggested, end of 2023, we would see a refresh of some kind.
Right.
And if that's the case, then there should be motherboard engineering, but that doesn't seem like that's happened. So ergo, it's got to be something that fits in the LGA 1700 socket.
So let me get this. So do you think that we might actually see 14th gen in these boards?
I think it's going to be a 13th gen refresh.
Okay.
Now, Intel might call it 14th gen, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be probably less of a move. Like from the Alder Lake to Raptor Lake, it's probably even less of a move from Raptor Lake to whatever's coming. Meteor Lake? No, I don't think so.
I mean, they wouldn't call Raptor Lake refresh.
Yeah.
Because it feels like 14th gen has to be reserved for true Meteor Lake, right?
Yeah. So we've changed the process. I mean, I would even take the same cores exactly as they are in Raptor Lake, but with some kind of a shrink. That'd be fine.
You think that would I
don't think that's going to happen
radical.
if they're releasing boards that have 20 power phases. Right?
Right. I mean, that's why it doesn't make sense. That's why it feels like they're just going to be extra hot parts that
Yeah.
But again, you sort of alluded to it earlier. They've already had a KS part.
Yeah.
Where do you go from 13900 to KS? They can't call it KS. Would it be KS Plus?
KSS?
KS Ultra. I mean, like there have been rumors of an Ultra, that Ultra nomenclature.
No, they probably do. Well, yeah, Ultra 13990.
Do you get a read that they could really? I mean, they had KS at 6 gigahertz. How much further can they really push that die?
I don't know. 6.2? We were pushing Sapphire Rapids to 7.2 earlier.
Yeah, and that's actually something I want to mention because Sapphire Rapids, of course, are all P-core based workstation server chips.
Yeah.
And you got that to 7.2? And
Yeah.
is that with the...
That's at 50 watts per core, basically, in 16 cores, so almost 800 watts.
Which isn't bad, right?
Yeah.
That's really not bad for
Yeah.
16 cores at 7.2.
I mean, if you look at the 6 gigahertz, like the record-breaking 13900 KS with the crazy cooling, it was also using about 45 watts per P-core, so the wattage kind of lines up. It's just 16 P-cores on a giant chip versus 8 P-cores and some E-cores on something else. So I don't know. I don't think we'll see 16 P cores in a desktop class CPU. I think eight P cores probably makes sense. Maybe they would do a 10 core. Remember the 10 core? We had the 8 core, and then they did the 10 core version, and it's like, that's weird. 2 more cores.
Huh? You know, that actually would be kind of interesting because I think there would be some people that would want 10 P cores, lose E cores, sort of like a mini Sapphire Rapids in a.
Yeah.
I mean, the permutations maybe they can fit. So you're saying, I mean, like he's just playing with me.
I don't know.
Because I honestly, in my expectation is we would see
10 and 8. We're back to the 18 core.
or just basically. I mean, maybe I have less imagination. Like I figured we would just see 1300 KS with plus 200, 200 megahertz.
Yeah.
And
maybe.
call it a day. That's kind of like a very old roadmap, like
Gold edition.
But now that you mentioned, like maybe we get a 10 core.
I don't know. Seems like they would be qualifying that if they're going to get it out in time for the fall by now, and everybody's very tight-lipped about that if that's happening.
But I mean would you want conventional 1300K, or would you rather have a 10 core clocked up?
I think I'd rather have 14th gen.
Oh well. But you gotta. I don't think we're gonna.
Can we get a die shrunk 13900? Like they don't have to make any changes to the silicon. Just give me the process shrink.
That seems radical, though. Why would they invest?
Well, they had to have the processes running in parallel. They've kind of hinted at that in some of the investor analyst days, like, oh, we always run these in parallel, and the one that wasn't doing so good is, okay, it wasn't doing so good, but then the other one that's doing much better, it's basically on track and everything's fine. So if they haven't already developed the floor plan intellectual property for that, maybe it makes sense.
But conventional Intel strategy is new process, lately these days, new dies, new process, new design.
Yeah.
Old stuff, put it on the clearance bin because we don't really want to touch it. Like,
yeah.
That would be that.
Yeah.
But then you're right, because they are moving to a new process.
Yeah.
We
already have 13th gen parts that are exactly the same as the 12th gen parts lower down the stack. So instead of Intel completely refreshing their entire stack as they have done in the past, it's like, oh, these OEM parts and this part, they've technically been making the same part just with a different badge, maybe some tweaks, but small tweaks if so, for 2 years, 3 years. And so maybe that's the new normal. Maybe that's easier. I mean, it seems like that would be easier from a production and maintenance standpoint because, if you bought a 12700 non-K, that's still a really viable processor in today's market.
Right.
And, like 10th and 11th gen, there's a huge gulf in performance there. Whereas 12th gen, you basically, 13th gen, there's not a lot of difference there,
right.
Unless you get into the really high end. And then it's like, okay, this is nice. Or you get 8 more E-cores. That's a pretty big difference.
Yeah. Huh. What would I want? So, but I'm actually now more confused about what could come because I expected the classic, here's 200, 300 megahertz more, a special number and call it a day. But
I really thought, like, when they gave us the close-ups of the die, I really thought that there would be a couple of P-cores that were there but just disabled for binning purposes because, that's how the Xeons are. There's a lot of cores on there and they just always disable 2, or they always disable on a tile or whatever. Well, for most of the parts, there's always a core disabled somewhere. It's like, oh, maybe they could get into that on the desktop side, so that their highest end parts, and then they just disable a core. The i5 was like that. There were 2 different dies for the i5, some that had the defective cores, and then some that were just designed from the beginning to only have certain P cores.
Right.
And so maybe that's something like that here.
Is that something that typically goes like, they sort of have the extra, it's like a extra provisioning for expecting some of the dies to be bad.
Yeah.
That's in the beginning of the process when it's worse. As you get better, closer to the end, and then you're getting higher yields.
Yeah.
Do we ever get all those cores lit up, or?
Well, it seems like we have on
Xeon, I mean.
Oh, on Xeon, we're getting there on Xeon because there is the idea of favored cores and that kind of thing in the X series Xeons. So all of those Xeons that didn't quite perfectly pass muster, I think, get shunted to the X side of things in the 8X series Xeons in the stack. So you have favored cores and you have cores that just won't clock as high, but they're not, they're not completely burned off. They're still there. They're just going to operate at a lower efficiency or a lower clock speed or lower whatever. So maybe that gives them a path for those kind of products as well. I don't know. Something's coming, it seems
Something is coming. We know something is coming from Intel. We know it's kind of on the down low because the boards have been refreshed. They're pretty beefy. Question is it going to be cool stuff like what you're saying, like a 10P core mini Sapphire Rapids, or
Or we just go to 400 watts in LGA 1700.
because that's like, I mean, that's the pattern I'm used to.
Yeah.
Let's just crank up the wattage, give you more clocks.
Yeah.
So like, I love, your idea is way more exciting to me than what I expect. So,
Yeah. My expectations are also low given the struggles. There's some real struggles coming from Team Blue, but they're trying. And the engineers, they're giving it 110%. And I see you. You're doing pretty good. Just hang in there.
But again, you never know. Maybe
Yeah.
we can be surprised, right? Because
Yeah, 10 P cores would be pretty awesome. That's probably not what they've done, but that would be pretty cool.
I like the idea though. Now I'm excited. Because I really thought 400 watts, 300, maybe 400.
Well, 10
400
P cores would still be 400 watts at 45 watts of core.
Oh, I was thinking just for the clock speeds. What's 10% over 6 gigahertz?
Another 600. Yeah,
That's too much.
yeah.
That's too much.
I think the most we could hope for on clock speed would be like 6.2, but that's probably way too much.
And then I think the problem is the reception would be really 600, 400 watts of power, new motherboard, expensive to
Yeah.
give me 5% higher clocks. I think the reception would not be as good.
Yeah,
So that's why I was kind of preparing to,
yeah.
but like
But maybe cheaper.
maybe cheaper.
Maybe cheaper.
Maybe price game. We'll
Yeah.
see.
I don't
Wow.
know. Something that's more of a differentiator that's like, yes, this is clearly head and shoulders better than what AMD is going to be able to do. And we know that AMD is kind of locked in terms of the wafer allocation and production and their ability to refresh their parts. So,
Yeah. And then what does Intel need to do? Because I mean, where do you feel like they are in desktop? Ryzen 9, Core i9, do they need, I mean, I still feel they're fairly even.
I would agree with that for sure.
Because they have pluses and minuses on each platform, each CPU. Does Intel really need to pull it out to get ahead a little bit more?
I mean, I think they would have to be at least 10 or 20% ahead if you were just buying strictly on the merits and not looking for specific platforms that one feature has, or the specific features one platform has versus the other. I think Intel would have to pull more than 10% ahead at this point to really make that much of a difference. And LGA 1700 is basically a dead-end platform, whereas AM5 is just getting started.
Right. Yeah. And is it really worth going through all that for 5% higher clocks? So.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's like 10, 15% maybe, but
All right. Well, I'm actually I'm more excited now because I thought we were going to see the same kind of like, but we won't know till the end.
no.
I'm going to let Wendell go because he's got a lot of meetings to get to, but thanks for coming. By the way, Internet, if you want to see more great content, again, he's overclocked. He's seen the overclocking of Sapphire Rapids at 7.2 gigahertz.
7.2.
You'll see the details of that on Level 1 Tech's channel. I'm sure.
Almost 50,000 on Cinebench R23 with just 16 cores. 46,000 in some. Yeah, I don't know. Level 1 Techs, I'm signing out. I'll see you later.
No, that's great. Level 1, and by the way, go to Level 1 Tech's, click like and subscribe, click the bell. Come back to PC World, of course, for more Computex 2023 coverage. And of course, click that like and subscribe and go to PCWorld.com for more great PC news.